Oh my, it is hard to believe that 60 years have passed by since those historic extemporaneous words of Martin Luther King rang out across the nation, and the I Have a Dream speech is considered to be the most profound words ever uttered by a speaker. Yes, I remember the day. August the 28th, 1963. I was in awe. My first march for freedom, young, naive, and by no means sophisticated or up to date on all the movements in this segregated world. It was a bright, beautiful morning when Deltas of all ages and NCNW members too were summoned by Dr. Dorothy Irene Height to meet at the NCNW headquarters on Vermont Avenue. We were very nervous, but people came. 250,000, they say. And unless I was in a helicopter, I could not get the full view. There we stood, near the stage on the side where we were close to Dr. Height. We could see everybody on the stage. Yes, they were scared of the unknown and maybe of violence, but none of the latter occurred. It was peaceful and friendly, like all of the relatives of one big family had come together for a serious purpose. We were all sisters and brothers who had come from every corner of the country, all walks of life, Jews and Gentiles and rich and poor and Muslim children, black and white, men and women. Some came by car, some by train, many by bus. They said one person roller skated all the way from Chicago to DC. It was a rally for jobs and freedom. You know, many may overlook the fact that the date was set to commemorate the 8th anniversary of the murder of Emmett Till, August 28, 1955, when Mrs. Till insisted that the casket of her son, who was brutally murdered, would remain open. She incited the civil rights movement. And another thing, which was really unforeseen, was the death of W.E.B. Du Bois on the eve of the March on Washington in 1963. He died August 27, 1963. But you know what? Times were bad then. And I have to tell you, times are still bad now. And we still have to fight. Because then we were looking at Bull Connor down there in Alabama, putting water hoses on black youth and poking women with cattle prods as they attempted to register to vote. And the list goes on and on. But the key leaders of the march were A. Philip Randolph, founder and president of Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, Martin Luther King, and Mr. Randolph's assistant, Bayard Rustin. Now let me tell you a little personal story. I remember Bayard Rustin as a little naive girl going to the United Methodist Summer Youth Camp at Morgan College every summer for a couple summers. And there he was, one of our teachers. I thought he was the most brilliant teacher I ever met, or one of the most brilliant persons I had ever met. That was just an aside. But there was Dr. Height, an organizer, seated on the stage. I thought Dr. Height was going to be one of the speakers. Mahalia Jackson saying, "I've been buked and I've been scorned." But women were not speakers. Not so this year. On August 26th, the voice of women will ring out through every corner of the Lincoln Memorial and National Mall, calling for justice, fairness, jobs, freedom, and down with hate. As an aside, a funny aside, the Afro-American newspaper pulled a quote from its archives about 1963 saying, "There were speakers and performers and women in heels and dresses and gloves." Oh, well, this year, we'll be in the crowd, but we'll be in our t-shirts saying NCNW and Delta Sigma Theta. We'll have on pants and tennis shoes. There'll be no heels. There'll be no gloves. And we'll be wearing our colors and our emblems. You know, we all quote the words of Dr. King. However, I would like to quote the words of A. Philip Randolph, who opened the march. He closed his remarks with these words: "Here today is only the first wave. When we leave, it will be to carry the civil rights movement home with us to every nook and corner of the land. And we shall return again and again and again to Washington in ever-growing numbers until total freedom is ours." And yes, we need to be there today, just like we were there yesterday, because the need is still there. And so, my dear friends, it has been my honor to return on the 25th, the 50th, and now the 60th. So I say to all of you who may be listening to my words, may freedom and justice come down to embrace all God's created people.